This is the BLM land right behind my new place, and where Lucy and I go out and walk every morning, and she absolutely loves it. She starts giving me the let's go on a walk stare first thing in the morning. She is so happy when she's out here hiking out in nature, and there's so many smells and so much good stuff for her. She really, really enjoys it. There were so many questions about my move from Central Florida to Central Oregon that I thought we'd do a little question and answer session. And it's going to actually be pretty easy because there were really only 4 questions. They might have been, worded a different way, but the question still was basically the same. So I thought I would go through it today. If you have any more questions, put them in the comment section down below, and I'll try to get to them in upcoming videos. Of course, the biggest question was, where's Dex? Dex, my cat. Those of you who have been following me for a while knew Dex. He's a beautiful, beautiful cat. Well, Dex moved out about 7 months ago. I came home one day and he had dug under the gate and was gone. It was heartbreaking for me, really heartbreaking. I loved that cat to a ridiculous amount. I really did. And it was one of those kind of things that my attachment to him was probably too much. There was a story with Dex, and I'll tell you that in just a minute. How did he get out? Well, I had rented that house. One of the reasons that I chose it was because it was a fenced backyard. And I was very excited for both Dex and Lucy to have a backyard space where they could go out and feel the air and sniff the grass and see the butterflies and all that. So it was intentional. And I knew that Dex had a wandering spirit. So I had even gotten these wire guards that go around the bottom of a fence with prongs that go down into the ground so that dogs and cats can't dig under the fence. I wasn't worried about Lucy, but I thought Dex might be a problem. And despite all my efforts, he got out. And he got out twice since I moved to Florida. Now, back up a little bit, when I was living up near Lake Tahoe in South Reno, he actually jumped off the 3rd floor balcony of my apartment. And I got the 3rd floor so that he couldn't jump off. I didn't want him to run away. And I thought, if I'm on the 3rd floor, it's really tall, he won't jump off. Well, he did. And he was actually gone for 7 weeks that time. 7 weeks, which is a long time for a cat. And he popped up on the Humane Society website as found. And I went over and drug his little butt home. He was just in really sad shape. It was very thin and wasn't doing well. He had, I think, an eye infection. But anyway, he got back to health and we went to Florida. When we got to Florida, I was there about 2 weeks and he got out. And luckily for me, Dex was chipped and collared with, my phone number on it and his name. One of the neighbors saw him down in the ravine behind their house because I had posted on the Facebook message group for my little neighborhood. And one of the neighbors saw him and let me know. And I ended up finally, after about, I think he was gone 8 or 9 days, finally got him back home. I had to sit on the edge of that ravine for probably a good hour and a half to get him to jump up the retaining wall and into my lap. He was just really, really skittish. He'd been living in a drain pipe down there. And I'm so surprised that he made it that long, because that ravine has alligators and there's bobcats and raccoons, I mean, all nature of things. So he was a tough little guy. This last time, about 7 months ago, I just kind of knew innately that that was sort of it. And oh my gosh, I was so heartbroken. It made me cry for the longest time just to even think about it. And I didn't say anything to you guys because every time I started to do it, it just made me feel horrible. And I just decided finally just to let it go. So when everyone noticed that Dex didn't come to Oregon with us, that's why. He moved out. And you know, I believe in my heart of hearts, getting all teared up now, that animals, they know what's going on. They're smart. Dex knew where he lived. He got out. He could have hung around in the neighborhood, come home and sat on the front porch and meowed. He didn't. So his love for adventure was greater than his love for a comfy couch and an easy meal. And I have to respect him for that. He knew where he lived. He didn't want to come home. He chose to go out and live a life of adventure. And that's what he did. So did I leave Dex in Florida? No. Dex left me in Florida. And I'm still heartbroken about it. I loved that cat so much. I got Dex when I was living in that little place in Mendocino, on the Mendocino coast. And it was about a little less than a year after Grace had died. My youngest daughter had died. And Heather, my older daughter, got Dex for me as a kitten. He had been found on a job site in Chico, which is in Northern California. So I think he was feral to begin with. And I can even remember when he was a kitten, he would just sort of sit there and look at me. He wasn't really sure about me. But we ended up getting along great and becoming very close. And he was a wonderful cat. He was incredibly beautiful. So Dex is off on his next adventure. And I guess so am I. The next big question was, why did you leave the villages? Why did you leave the villages? You loved it. And that's a complicated answer. There's a lot of factors that went into me moving from the villages to Central Oregon. It really started with a camping trip that I wasn't invited to. Every August, my new son-in-law, Ryan, who's fabulous, I love that man to death. He's wonderful. Every August, he does a camping trip to an area in Central California called Lake Lopez. I'm pretty sure it's like a state park or county park. And it's a weekend camping trip for his birthday. And all his long-term friends get invited. Last year, his mom was invited. I mean, it's a big thing. It's a 3-day, 4-day, 5-day camping trip, depending on how long you can stay. And I didn't get invited last August. Not because I wasn't welcome, but because I lived in Florida. And they knew darn good and well that I wasn't going to fly across the country, buy all the camping equipment, and show up and camp. And I'll tell you what, I don't ever get FOMO, fear of missing out. I don't, because goodness gracious, my life is so full and so fun, and I have not missed out on much. That's doggone sure. But at that moment, when I realized that everybody was going camping, including Ryan's mother, and I wasn't, that hit me. It hit me hard. And what I realized over the coming days after that is if I was going to stay in Florida while my daughter and son-in-law are in Central California, I wasn't going to be able to participate in those kind of family events. I just wasn't. And my daughter, Heather, has never said boo to me about where I lived, where I traveled, anything. Her attitude has always been, Mom, you do you. You go, girl. Have fun. Whatever works for you. She was supportive and behind me. She never once complained that I was living in Florida. But I'll tell you, at that moment, I was complaining. So that kind of started me thinking. And what I realized is that those trips and those kind of adventures are precious and they're kind of rare. So that started the wheels turning. And then I traveled back to California to visit Heather, and I went to a conference with a girlfriend. And let me tell you what, traveling from Florida to California is not a small thing. It is an all-day trip. Plus, where I lived, because of the shuttle and all the transportation to the airport, I would need to get up at 1:30 or 2 in the morning to get on an 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock flight in order to get to California at a reasonable hour. So it not only was a full day of travel, but it was an uncomfortable day because I would only have slept for a few hours and, just going to be a wreck when I got to California. Plus, I'm just so over TSA. Is anyone else over TSA? I am so done with that whole thing. And it's frustrating because I understand the Patriot Act. And I understand that the Patriot Act was sitting in wait. It was written prior to 9/11. So that's a clue. And the Patriot Act, all you have to do is read the first page and you'll be horrified at the lack of freedoms that came with the Patriot Act. So going through TSA and that whole thing just was such a frustrating thing for me because I don't like how they do it. If you work for TSA, this is not about you. This is about policy. So all of that put together, I started thinking about maybe I want to be back on the western side of the country. Now, your next question is going to be, well, Kimberly, why did you move to Florida in the first place, or the East Coast? I, in my foolishness, overconfidence, as usual, I have an overconfidence problem. I thought I would be able to get my daughter to move to the East Coast. She was single at the time when I moved. She wasn't in a relationship. I thought that if I got out there and started, investigating and finding fun things and fun places, that I would eventually be able to get her out to the East Coast. Well, then she met Ryan and fell in love, and he's a firefighter, and he just got on with CAL FIRE. They're not leaving California. So my plans of having Heather join me on the East Coast were dashed with that marriage, and that's fine because Ryan is wonderful. So I started thinking about moving back to the western half of the United States. I just wasn't sure where I wanted to go because I knew for sure that I couldn't go back to California. Do I love California? Yes. From the bottom of my heart, I love California. I was born and raised in California. I raised my daughters in California. California, to me, is this shining, beautiful state with so much beauty, so much natural charm, everything. But unfortunately, my love for California, because I was born and raised there, I've also seen the changes. And it's very uncomfortable for me. Now, if you live in California and you love it, I completely support you. I have lots and lots of friends that are still in California, but I just couldn't go back there. The price of housing is crazy. The taxes are crazy. There's a lot of crazy, in my opinion, in California right now. If you disagree, that's fine. I completely understand. Everybody gets to have their own opinion. So I knew I needed to find something on the west side of the country. And I actually have made a couple of trips out investigating other areas. I made a trip for a week to Boise, Idaho. I didn't film it. I didn't tell you guys about it. I just went. And I stayed in Boise and I went all around the downtown area and I investigated the communities around Boise. And I liked it. I just didn't necessarily love it, or it just didn't quite fit for me. Then I went to Ivins, Utah. I spent about a week in Ivins and kind of poked around there. Really, really pretty part of Utah. And one of the things I liked about that location is it's really near some fabulous parks. You know, Zion, and there's Snow Canyon right in Ivins. And all those parks I really haven't spent any time in. And I thought that would be fabulous because I could really get to know those parks. I'm a national park girl. I'm an outdoor girl. So that looked attractive to me. So it was kind of Ivins, Utah for a while. And then my girlfriend, Candia, you guys have heard me talk about her. She's a medical intuitive. I actually interviewed her and met her on my other channel, Journey to the New Earth. I'll put one or two of our interviews down below. She's a hoot. She lives here in Central Oregon. She knew I was thinking about moving out to the West Coast, and she started in on me. You got to move to Central Oregon. You got to move to Central Oregon. You got to move to Central Oregon. And I'm like, I don't know. You know, I wasn't sure about it. But what I did do is I came out here for a visit, to come to visit her at her house. And it was really fun and really, really beautiful. And she did something that was tricky and very, very smart. What she did is she had a dinner with a whole bunch of her girlfriends from this area. And they're all, you know, spiritual related. They're all woo-woo, you know, just, you know, my whole wheelhouse. And we had this really nice dinner out at a restaurant. And I got to know them, and I just really enjoyed all of them and enjoyed the conversation. And this very smart thing about that is all of a sudden, this part of Oregon became much more of an emotional attachment for me because I knew people. I had met these ladies, and I went to their house, and I got to know them. And all of a sudden it became a much more comfortable move because I knew people where I was going and I liked them and I felt like I had a group. And that really sort of started getting me thinking about moving to Central Oregon. Well, then I started looking at rentals in the area, just thinking about it. And lo and behold, this house that I'm in now came up. And it's gorgeous. It's in a beautiful location. And it was in my price range and in a little community outside of town. And I just loved it. So I ended up renting the house. And it turns out that I am literally 5 doors down from my girlfriend Candia. I'm not kidding you one little bit. And it wasn't planned. It wasn't planned at all. It just happened to be how it turned out. When I decided to move and I had rented this house here, I went ahead and talked with my landlords because my lease wasn't up. I still had about 6 months on my lease. You know, I was leasing my place there in Florida. And my landlords, I got so lucky. They were so nice. Well, we talked about it, and they ended up buying all my furniture. I had intended to sell it, like on Facebook Marketplace, but I knew that that was just going to be a whole lot more work, and it's kind of a hassle to list things on Facebook Marketplace because you're dealing with all these people, and they got to come by, and they got to check it out, and da-da-da-da. So it was such a gift to me that my landlord said, we're interested in the furniture. And they specifically asked me for all the decor items as well, which just cracked me up. So what that meant for me is I ended up just having to pack up my personal things, you know, my clothes, my makeup, my hobby items, and my work stuff. And I know that sounds like not much, but oh my gosh, it was weeks and weeks of packing. Because, you know, I run a couple businesses out of my home. So I ended up selling them all the furniture and leaving that behind, and it looks gorgeous now. They decided to put the house up for sale. I didn't move because they wanted to sell it. They ended up selling it because I moved. So then I started thinking about, okay, how am I going to get back across the country and have it not be a horrible thing? Because I had driven with Lucy and Dex from the West Coast to South Carolina. And that was quite the ordeal because I would drive around 6-7 hours for the day. I didn't want to go a whole long time because Dex was in a crate and that makes him crazy. And I just wanted to make sure that the animals were comfortable too. So I would drive for 6 or 7 hours and then get a hotel room and then have to unpack all the animals and get them in the room and get all settled and get something to eat. And then I would have to pack the animals up in the morning, and I was just quite the adventure. So coming back across the country, I thought, I wonder if I can do it without stopping. So I talked with my daughter about it, and if you watched the road trip video, you'll know all about this. And if you didn't see the road trip video, you might want to watch it because it's fun. I'll have it listed in the description box down below. So long story short is I figured out how to do the drive across the country so that it was manageable. I ended up doing some of the drive by myself. I stayed overnight at my girlfriend Lisa's condo in Destin. Thank you again, Lisa. Picked her up in Tennessee, and then we drove straight from Memphis, Tennessee to Central Oregon, where I'm now living. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's going to be hard. We're going to hate each other when we get here because we're going to be tired of listening to the other one breathe. But you know what? It was so much easier and so much more fun than either one of us thought. We thought this is going to be a deal and we're just going to have to be patient with each other and we're just going to have to get through it. It wasn't like that at all. It went by really fast. It was kind of fun and funny. We had a great time. We had no problems at all. It went super smooth. And we were having breakfast in Redmond Friday morning when we had left Wednesday evening, Tennessee. So Wednesday evening, then all day Thursday, and by Friday morning, we were eating breakfast in my new town. So that ended up working really, really well. About Florida and am I missing Florida? You know, that is a surprising answer. And the answer is no, actually, I'm not. And that's surprising probably to you guys and to me as well, because I loved Florida. I absolutely loved Florida. I loved the state. I loved just the landscaping and the wildness of it. I loved the springs. I loved kayaking there. I loved Florida. I loved the fact that you could get to either the Gulf or the coast super easy from where I was. I loved Florida. And I cried when I left. I cried. I thought, oh my gosh, it's going to take me a while to feel good about the move. Well, surprisingly, I haven't missed Florida a bit. And I think it's because where I'm living is so incredibly beautiful. Right here behind me, this is right outside my backyard. This is where Lucy and I walk every morning. This is BLM land that backs up to where I live. And there's pathways. We go out here every morning. The Cascades are right over there. I am actually on the east side of the Cascades. And when I drive out of my community to go into town, I am greeted with the Cascade Mountains lined up like sassy little women in fancy dresses. They are so gorgeous. It is so incredibly beautiful here, and I'm in the middle of nature. No glyphosate, no manicured lawns, no mosquito spraying, none of that. I am in nature, and I don't know if you guys can hear the birds singing right now. It is so incredibly beautiful here. So beautiful. Yesterday, I drove up to a little town called Sisters. Now, Sisters is here in Central Oregon. It's west of me. It takes about 15 minutes to get there. And just that little 15 minutes is a change in elevation so that it's not juniper trees, it's tall pine trees, which reminded me of Lake Tahoe, which is my favorite place on the planet. I've lived there a couple of times. And I'm telling you what, ladies, I started tearing up because it felt so good to be back in those tall trees and in the mountains and in this type of landscape. It was so beautiful, and the smell of the pine trees. And it brought back all the memories I had from when I lived in Lake Tahoe, which was so much fun. So much fun. And I'll go back there. I'll rent a place and go back and visit, and I'll take you guys with me. So no, I haven't missed Florida, which is very, very surprising to me because I thought I would. But I am so, so loving it here. I am a mountain girl. If I had to choose between the ocean and the mountain, I'm choosing the mountain every single time. And I am in the thick of it. And I feel so blessed and so lucky because I am loving it here so much more than I ever imagined. I came back out to the West Coast because I wanted to be closer to my daughter. And I wanted to be involved in the family memories and the family events, which I will be now. I never dreamed that I was blessing myself so much because it is so beautiful here and so gorgeous. And I am just in awe. I went hiking. Lucy and I went hiking, not a long hike because I broke my toe a few weeks ago and it's still hurting me. We went out to a place called Smith Rock. So incredibly beautiful, so beautiful, just stunning, stunning beauty with a, river running through it. The Crooked River runs through it. That will be an area Lucy and I will hike, I'm sure, over and over and over again. We couldn't do much this particular time because of my toe, but I'm sure that's going to be a place that we're going to visit over and over again. There are high mountain lakes for kayaking. There's endless hiking trails. There's hiking trails right out here, right behind my house. It is so beautiful. And I feel so very blessed and so lucky and so surprised because I never expected to feel so just in love with where I was. So that's a little bit of the story. Now you might be asking, what's next? Well, it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun here. I am decorating a new house. When I moved into this new place, I did not have a stick of furniture because I left everything in Florida. Everything was piled in my little, 4-door sedan. I did ship a bunch of boxes. I think I probably shipped about 40 boxes total, with my clothes and my camera equipment and, skincare and makeup and all that stuff. So I was packing boxes like a madwoman for a couple of months prior to leaving. And USPS did an okay job. They didn't do a fabulous job. I just got one of the boxes, like 2 days ago, and I mailed it almost a month ago. So I'm not sure, it might have got on a journey before it got to me. So I'm unpacking boxes and furnishing this new home. Now that's going to be fun, and I hope you guys will stick around for that. What I have decided for this house, because it's a completely different type of interior decorating in the Pacific Northwest, and I do want to kind of do a Pacific Northwest home. So my Florida furniture would not have fit in anyway, and it would have cost so much more to ship my furniture here than the value of the furniture. I bought nice pieces, but I didn't spend a ton of money. I was just careful with what I bought, and I tried to watch my budget and get nice things, which I feel like I did. My goal here, or the criteria that I have set for myself here in this house, is everything has to be thrifted. either garage sales or estate sales or thrift stores or whatever. It has to be thrifted. And I've already started in it. I'm already having so much luck. I've gotten a bedroom set for $30. I've got a beautiful leather couch for $175. It really has been a lot of fun. So you're probably wondering, how did this all come about? Why are you thrifting your furniture? Well, I started a thrifting channel a few months back. I don't know if you watch it or not. If you don't, you might want to check it out. It might be something that you enjoy. I'll have it listed in the description box down below. I started a thrifting channel, and you're probably wondering, well, what are you talking about? How did you do that? And that came about as a result of a conversation I was having about socks. And I'll fill you guys in. And I just told this story to a girlfriend who I met. I have a new friend here locally. I told this story to her when we were out having lunch. So I was talking with a girlfriend, and I was complaining about not only are we over consumers, particularly here in the United States, and I think that we can probably all agree to that we're over consumers, but we're also over producers. There is so much crap being made and shoved out into the marketplace that it's really frustrating to me. And it's particularly frustrating to me in the skincare industry, because I will wake up every morning to emails, a brick of emails from new skincare companies, and they'll say something like, you know, we are an innovative new skincare company supporting the independence of women in their journey to self-actualization. I mean, it's just a whole bunch of marketing baloney. And what I know for sure is that they just see that skincare is very, very profitable. And they're not bringing anything new to the market. They're just here because they want to make a profit. I really prefer the companies that came into whatever it is they're doing from a passion. And in my opinion, a lot of these companies don't come from a place of passion. They come from a place of wanting the profits. So I was complaining about that, and complaining about, you know, I wish that companies would only come to market if they're solving a problem that's not being addressed, or if they're offering something new. And I think a lot of companies don't do that. Stick with me here. I promise I'm getting to why I started the thrifting channel. So I brought up the topic of socks. And if you've ever been in one of those big stores, you know, like Target or Walmart, and they have that wall of socks, the wall of socks, I call it. And I can remember going in, and I need like 2 pair of socks. I need 2 pair of socks. And I'm looking at this wall of socks, and I'm thinking, while I'm the only one looking at the wall of socks, I'm thinking, how many socks do we need in the world? How many socks do we need? And I was laughing with my girlfriend saying, I think we're good with socks. I think we're good. I think if we don't make any socks for the next 10, 20 years, we'll be good. Between all the socks that are in the wall of socks at every store around the country and around the world, and all the socks that everybody has stuffed in their drawers, and every sock that's in every thrift store on the planet, I think we're good with socks. That's the complaint I have, is that we just keep making more and more stuff. So my girlfriend and I are laughing about the sock thing so hard. And then all of a sudden it hit me. It's like, Kimberly, maybe you ought to put your money where your mouth is, or maybe you ought to, you know, listen to yourself. And I started thinking, okay, what if I started thrifting things that I need? And then I looked on YouTube, and I realized there's this whole thrifting culture on YouTube. And I thought, oh my gosh. So I decided to start this thrifting channel, because what I had done is I had gone out to a local thrift store and started looking around and realizing that I had been paying retail for new things that I could have gotten for an absolute fraction of the cost, just as good, barely used, at a local thrift store. And it really, really turned my thought process and my attitude around about how we get stuff, how we buy things. And so I started this thrifting channel because, first of all, it's super fun. And gosh, do you save a lot of money? I'm telling you what, it's crazy. So I started this thrifting channel and I thought, if I could just encourage one or two, or maybe 3 or 4 women to start looking to thrifting as an alternative to going out and buying new, then my work here is done. I made an impact on us really thinking about how we furnish our homes, how we buy new stuff for ourselves, maybe even how we buy clothing. I noticed right away that there were a lot of things that are available in the thrift store that you should never pay retail for. Never. Wooden utensils are one of them. Never ever pay retail for wooden utensils. Again, you can find wooden utensils for days, really good ones. You can find them almost new, or you can find them really loved. And I happen to like wooden utensils that have been used because you can, you feel all the history behind it. So anyway, that's how I started a thrifting channel. It's really fun. I actually also started an online shop to, kind of keep recycling the things that I find. It's studiokimberly.com. I'll also have that listed down in the description box down below. So the goal for me with this house is to buy everything secondhand. Now, clearly, I'm not going to be able to do it 100%, but I'll tell you what, I think I'm going to be about 98%. I don't want to buy a used mattress. I am going to buy a real, a new mattress. And I did need to buy some things for my studio, where I do my filming and manage the inventory for my shop. I needed some specific things there. So I did buy some things new, but everything else so far has been thrifted, and I've gotten a beautiful leather couch, and I've gotten a bedroom set, and yada yada. So what's next? I'm getting there. On this channel for the next several weeks and months, I'm going to be completely decorating, styling, everything, this new home with secondhand thrifted items. And you can see how I put them together, how I style them, how I arrange things. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Now, if you're interested in the shopping part of it, like what thrift stores do I go to? What estate sales do I go to? How do I actually get this stuff? You might want to come on over to Studio Kimberly here on YouTube. That's my thrifting channel, Studio Kimberly, and I'll have that listed down below because that's where I'm going to be shopping, not only for myself and the new house, but for my online shop. So if you like the shopping part, check that out. You might have fun over there. If you just like the decorating, styling, home decor stuff, stick around here. That's going to happen here. It's going to be a lot of fun. That's a little bit about my decision to leave the villages and move to Central Oregon. One thing I can say is I have moved around a lot. And a lot of people have said, or some people have said, oh, she's looking for something. No, I'm not. I'm really happy and fulfilled. I'm just looking. I like seeing new places. I like having new experiences. I like understanding new places and the culture there. I like it. I can remember talking to my brother when I was younger. He's super smart. And he said, I want to know everything. And I said to him, I want to see everything. And that is still the case. He still wants to know everything, and I still want to see everything. Is this going to be a temporary stop for me? I don't think so. I actually think that this is pretty much it for me. I am so in love with this place. This is much, much more my type of place than the villages. Not that I don't appreciate the villages. I absolutely do. And I recognize really clearly that the majority of people would prefer the villages over this type of lifestyle. This outdoor hiking, kayaking, camping, being in nature lifestyle. I had a girlfriend in the villages. She hated being outside. It was bugs and the wind would blow and there was, trees and weird. She just hated it. I love being outside. Absolutely love it. So this is much more me. And I'll tell you, the sense of, I don't know, I don't want to say relief, but just the sense of just feeling in love with where I am is so strong for me. And I loved Florida. I really did. And I appreciated the villages. But I'll tell you, this is much more where I feel at home and I feel peaceful and I feel happy and I feel contented. And I just feel so very grateful to be back in all of this. So am I thinking this might be the last stop? Yeah, I actually am. I was getting a little, tired of moving. And, I'll have to say I have visited so many places. I loved San Miguel de Allende. I loved Montana. I loved Tulum, Mexico. I liked Ecuador. I didn't love Ecuador. I loved Aiken, South Carolina. I loved Florida. I love a lot of places. But when it comes to that sort of nurturing forever place, this feels really right to me. So I'm thinking that I will probably buy a home here, get a little bit of land. I do want chickens. I want a little garden. I want to have some space and just a little bit of land that I can call my own. So that's sort of on the back burner right now. But at the moment, we're decorating a new place in the Pacific Northwest. I'm learning the hiking trails. I think I'm going to go kayaking this week for the first time because the weather's supposed to be fabulous and there's a lake right out there that I can put my kayak in. Yes, I brought one of my kayaks. I sold the other 3. Why does one person need 4 kayaks? I don't know. But I had 4 kayaks. I hope I answered your questions about the move. I know it was surprising for some of you. I think some of you were like, yeah, what's new? That gal moves around. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're new here, I'm Kimberly. This is Pretty Over 50, where we talk everything beauty, fitness, and lifestyle for the over 50 woman. I don't know if this was interesting to you if you're new. You don't know me from anyone, but for those of you who've been following me for a while, I hope that answered all your questions. If you have more questions, put it in the description box down below. And now I'm going to go back to my beautiful home here in Central Oregon and unpack some more boxes. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.